So this one kind of caught everyone, I think,
Yeah,
off guard and it was actually sent like on a Sunday night. It's like
I
11
know.
o'clock Sunday night. There was an email that went out to the analyst relations folks from SAP announcing that they had just acquired Callidus Cloud. And that's a company that you are very familiar with. I'm familiar with. So what did you think when you saw that news?
I've been Callidus Cloud. I'm calling myself this. I'm not saying they're calling me this, but I've been one of their like closest advisors. Literally, I had a retained advisory position with this company for, I think it's either 4 years or 3 years, but in a row. And I had no idea this was coming. None.
Wow.
Zip.
I know, because I remember I caught you on Facebook Messenger. And I said, "Hey, did you know about this?" And you were like, "What?"
What was right? And then Dennis Howlett, who of course is major influencer and runs Diginomica. He writes, "Wow, this one caught me by surprise too," on Facebook. Right? He was completely thrown off by it too. We all were. I mean, to their credit, they kept it that stealthy, because usually we have so much gossip that we get that the odds of us hearing about it are pretty good, right? And yet, completely quiet. And I tried to push some people there to get information, couldn't get a word out of them, right? And, well, you know why? Because it's still an intent to acquire.
Right.
They haven't actually officially completed the acquisition, but I'll tell you what. Callidus Cloud to me, and it's one of the reasons I've very much enjoyed being their advisor, is a very different company than even what I expected it to be in the beginning. I mean, I remember years ago, I was pretty booked up, and I met with Giles House, who at the time was the CMO, is now the Chief Product Officer, kind of the number 2 guy in the company after Leslie Stretch, who's the CEO, who's awesome, by the way, in a very interesting way. And he sat with me, and I said, "So what do you guys do?" I mean, I knew they were I thought they were like compensation, sales compensation. That was it. He said, "Well, we were, but we're expanding our portfolio." And he's explaining how they were buying up these marketing companies and these kind of sales performance enablement companies, and then they bought an e-learning system. And what it turned out to be, all in all, over the 3 or 4 years from when I met them, which had already had some of the acquisitions to current, they bought, I think it was 15 or 16 companies.
Yeah.
Right? And all of them were the in-betweens. Like they called, their messaging was built around the concept of the process lead to money, right? And lead being exactly what it sounds like, money being exactly what it sounds like, which was the way we used to call it, lead to cash was the old term, pretty much the same thing. But what's interesting is they had and they were CRM-ish, and all of that. And sales and marketing were kind of the area they covered, but they didn't have a single core CRM product. They were all the things that were value adds, acceleration, that fit in the cracks, right? And which, by the way, if you look at Gartner's numbers, is where the CRM market's potential for most growth is exactly where they were playing.
Yeah.
So they had very productive partnerships with SAP and with Salesforce. Was a really interesting partnership.
Yeah, weren't they like a platinum sponsor?
Oh yeah, big time Salesforce partner. Again, they offered things Salesforce didn't. They weren't. I don't think they were Oracle partners, and I don't think they were really Microsoft partners. But they were talking it through, and part of our discussions in the advisory side. But the 2 companies that they were committed to were SAP and Salesforce, without any question. And the funny thing is, even though I was caught by surprise, and the price of the acquisition, or the apparent price of the acquisition to be, it was 2.4 billion is the number I've seen thrown around, which is a really big number.
Yeah.
That said, though, the thing that made this company interesting to me, and always really interesting, was they have an outlier model they've been working with, first of all, in terms of the actual offerings, meaning, for example, so they have their sales, originally they didn't exactly used to compete head-to-head on sales comp, and exactly kind of went this way, and they went this way, right? So they still compete there, certainly, and they also have CPQ, so they compete there, Not exactly, but they compete with other CPQ vendors there.
and
But they have like a brilliant and truly brilliant onboarding application. It's brilliant, and it's based on the eLitmus e-learning platform
right,
that
the
they bought.
testing, yeah.
Yeah, and eLitmus, which is run by Rory Cameron, is who's not only really good at running this thing, he's a hysterically funny person, Irish guy. Just I love this guy, right? He's so funny and he's so good, but he's really good with eLitmus. He really has figured out how to make eLitmus not just because you wonder why would they buy an e-learning system? Why would they buy a game? Well, they bought
Badgeville, right? Didn't they buy Badgeville too?
Yeah, gamification.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of pieces, but it took me a long time to figure out why they even bought most of them. There's only one, and I can't remember which one it is now, but there's one of their acquisitions. I still have no clue why they bought it. I don't have a clue, and I can't fit them into anything that they have. And I don't remember what it is. It'll come to me if I look. But anyway, so the thing is that when they're partners, so on the one hand, they are great partners for ecosystem thinkers, which SAP is more so than Salesforce, although I will to Salesforce's credit, thanks to Bob Stutz and Leila Seca and some of the other, sluggers there, they're coming around to really, they are actually coming into and starting to seriously think about ecosystems the way they are meant to be, which will make them even more powerful. So, but there's still, if I had to pick SAP or Salesforce as a fit, I don't like the idea of picking it, but I would have picked SAP without doubt, because they literally offer what SAP doesn't, and that's one thing. But the other thing was the model of the company itself is an outlier model. Most companies, Salesforce obviously being almost the prime example of this, tend to have a vision and mission, and then they operationally execute against the vision and mission. And occasionally there's a model that is an outlier model that works. Like, the model that nearly never works is a pure engineering model, where you build a great product. And what I always say is that you have products with an institution wrapped around, but you're not a company, right? Zoho, of course, has made it work.
Yeah.
Usually, although they're up against its limit now,
yeah.
Right? So they're starting to expand out into the more traditional things you got to do as a company to make it work. And
right.
your advice with them is fantastic. And then Callidus Cloud's model was not visionary. No visionary. They're completely not visionary. They have no vision. But what they have is mission. And they are a mission-driven company. And the thing that makes them interesting, so they're saying, look, down the road we think we'll be able to help you, but we can help you with what you need right now, and we have the pieces that you don't have that we will, and either some or all of those pieces can help you right now with what you need to do operationally to make your company better today. And when Leslie Stretch gets on the stage and talks about that, it just works. He is a mission-driven guy. And they've taken the company to, and this is just an estimated number, I don't know how accurate it is, but it's in the range, to about, I don't want to say 270 million or so, give or take. And that may be off by some. I'm not a financial analyst, and I don't really delve a lot into the numbers, but I do remember this much. Since I met them, they've tripled in size, right? And I'm not saying I did that.
Yeah, I'm going to say you could take credit for that one, right?
Right. So I need a referral fee for this to make acquisition to be. So, but they really have done a fantastic job at finding the right pieces to make your business a better business in a immediate time. Like, I'll go back to the onboarding thing just to give you an example. So a couple of years back, it's been 2 years now, I guess 2016, I addressed, as a favor to them, I addressed their board of directors. And while we were there, I was allowed to, sit in on the meeting as much as, minus, the super private parts. And they they showed, and it was not released yet, but it has been since, the sales onboarding technology that they were about to, add to the portfolio. And I was so blown away by it, because it took content and testing and process and optimization of format, so video, all that, and and took you, if you were a rookie and you were hired by them the day you walked in the door to the day you finished with the onboarding process. When you came out, you were pretty complete, and and the thing is, it was seamless and beautiful. I mean, it genuinely was something that blew me away. And it was using, the disparate pieces that they had bought, but they turned out to be not so disparate when applied to sales performance and sales enablement and sales acceleration or sales optimization and like that. On the marketing side, they're a little weaker, but they're still pretty good. The gamification aspects are really interesting that they've built in. So they've done a lot. They're a really good company, and this acquisition to me could arguably be the best acquisition anyone's going to make in 2018. Again, that's forecasting, and Segway. I don't drive a Segway, so
Well, it sounds like to me, what makes it a good fit is, I would say that SAP is a mission-driven organization as well. And so when you have Callidus Cloud, who's a mission-driven organization, and SAP, which is a mission-driven organization, that kind of makes for a more cohesive fit. Whereas if they, like you said, Salesforce is more visionary, and if Callidus had gone to Salesforce, would there have been more of a kind of a clash before?
No, it would have been that, but it would have been more of a port. See, SAP is buying a company, like they're, including staff, but they're buying, which by the way is very good at Callidus Cloud, buying a company that fits into an ecosystem. Right. With Salesforce, they would have been buying, I think, even though it would have worked, I think to a large extent, they would have been buying pieces to add to a portfolio. Because there were some competitive pieces like CPQ and things like that are in there, but so they would have had to cherry pick to some extent, I think. Or they would have allowed, like they often do, you allow, the steel brick to work alongside of Cloud. Now, Dennis Howlett rightfully did make the point that, Callidus Cloud's sweet spot tends to be in the mid-market, but the upper end of the mid-market and the middle of the mid-market is where I would put them. On the other hand, the thing that I know from working with them and seeing what they're up to is they're either immediately scalable, which goes to the mission-driven side of them. They want to be ready to do things now, or in some cases, scaling up, right? So I think in that regard that they'll be able to fit to an enterprise play in those in-between pieces. I mean, SAP and they were good partners. I had lots of conversations about that, and they always were really solid partners. Both companies really liked each other, and they worked together well. Callidus Cloud, we saw, of course, most of the time because on the analyst side, we saw them at Dreamforce. But that's partly because of the way things get set up for us at these different events, right? With SAP is a little bit warier on how they do things. So, Sapphire, CEC at Barcelona, and you don't really, but there's no, it's not a destination this way Dreamforce is, so the partner ecosystem isn't as apparent at Sapphire or CEC as it is at Dreamforce. The partner ecosystem's in play big, and they're in touch with you because Salesforce is, I guess, made clear which of us is showing up, right? So the partners all get in touch. It really works out well. I mean, it's done better. The SAP needs to fix some things there, although I am optimistic about them this year because of the acquisitions they've been making.
Right.
So,
all right.
I think I'm very happy about this acquisition. If it had to be, I'm not very happy. I'd lose some income probably, but at the same time, I am really happy for Callidus Cloud. The other thing about them is the people there are just genuinely good people, aside from being very capable leaders and very capable practitioners. They're just really good people. I really enjoy working with the company, so I'm happy for them because I think a lot of them will benefit, from it. Some of them are going to leave. It always is the case, but on the whole, this one to me was a good one.